The first time I met the club, is the first thing I said to them. I said, no matter if are you gonna be the manager or not, but for the next 5-10 years, because of the squad and because of the age, for me, you're gonna dominate the English football.
Enzo Maresca might not be a household name just yet, but the world of football, he's becoming one of the hottest prospects. From his time learning under Pep Guardiola to his bold ideas as a manager, Maresca's story is just getting started. And in this video, I just want to take a look into Maresca's backstory, his background, his upbringing as a manager, and what makes him the crazy bald man that he is today. No, I'm just kidding. Maresca's start at Chelsea is kind of insane if you take a look into other managers who've come into this situation, such as Potter, Pochettino. What makes Maresca different is that he comes from the coaching tree under Pep. And we've seen people who've come under his coaching tree, such as Arteta and Xabi Alonso. Maresca was under Pep in the 22-23 season, in which Man City won the treble. And Maresca could have stayed on and eventually become Pep's heir. But no, he wanted a challenge. And after an unsuccessful season at Parma, he went to Leicester City. And a lot of people would have looked at that and said, this is kind of a tricky situation. They had just been relegated. James Madison was sold. Vardy's on his last legs. What could possibly be good in this situation? But Maresca, he got them promoted. And he got them promoted playing his way of football. Maresca brought a clear vision to Leicester, combining control and possession with attacking edge. Under his guidance, Leicester adopted a high-pressing style, one that overwhelms opponents in the championship, and we've seen that with a blistering start in the first half of the season, absolutely destroying teams with his inverted fullbacks and his dual eights in the half spaces. Maresca loved dominating possession, and you could see here he shared with Southampton 63.7% possession for the course of the Championship 23-24 season. He loves control. Another thing that Maresca loves is building from the back with his goalkeeper. He hates long goal kicks. And you could see here the average goal kick was 30.8 yards. Maresca does not want the ball in the air. He wants it on the floor. In fact, Leicester was one of the slowest teams in progressing the ball because he wanted his team to continually pass the ball through the middle. He loves central progression. And that's something that was a negative, but let's take a look at the positives. Often, when building from the back, Maresca would push his goalkeeper to form a back four here, and teams would be bamboozled because the goalkeeper would be the free man, always allowing one of the midfielders, center backs, or fullbacks to play back to the keeper and having that spare man and build up, essentially destroying presses. Maresca would do this so often because he can trust Hermanson, who often would pick a nice through ball that would split the defensive line, making Leicester almost create an artificial transition. In fact, in possession, when inverting the fullback, Maresca would love to always have one of his midfielders, as in Harry Winks or Dewsbury Hall, or as you can see, Ndidi, drop off to create overloads in the midfield. Because at the end of the day, you see here, what are you going to do as a defender? Because there's always going to be a spare player in the midfield, as you can see. When you invert a fullback, you're kind of in a pickle as a defender because if you press the fullback, Winks is going to be open. If you press Winks, the fullback's going to be open because Ndidi and Dewsbury Hall, as the dual eights, will drop off, creating overloads in the midfield. Now, Maresca's only doing this so he can get 1v1 position on the outside with both his wingers. Maresca's whole philosophy is crowding the middle of the pitch so the wide areas is wide open because he trusts his wingers to attack and demolish the fullback one-on-one. Now, that didn't always work, and in the second half of the season, Leicester did drop off to the point where people were thinking that they're going to bottle the league. But Maresca, he salvaged it, and they got promoted. And with the promotion, Maresca chose to join Chelsea, a club that is known to swallow and chew up managers consistently. And Maresca, he didn't come in with great news because as a championship manager, Chelsea fans, after seeing Pochettino get fired, were expecting a top-tier coach to come in. And hearing another stubborn manager who doesn't want to change his way of playing, similar to Ange, did not rub really well with Chelsea fans. Instead, though, Chelsea fans actually got one of the most flexible managers in the Premier League. Look at these stats here. It's really crazy. Most goals Chelsea, most XG accumulated Chelsea, most shots on target Chelsea, most points away from home Chelsea, longest active winning streak Chelsea. Maresca has shown the capability of changing almost on a whim, not being afraid to get rid of players, change formations, switch formations, change tactics. In fact, Chelsea ranks number 1 in XG created in the season, topping Liverpool, who are the number 1 team in the league currently. Furthermore, Chelsea's also beating Liverpool and City in regular play XG, far away leading the pack. I find this very interesting that Chelsea continue to just churn out high XG performances. In fact, they're averaging 1.86 in the 14 games played in just open play XG. That's kind of insane. In fact, they're dominating the attacking third, as you can see here, being in the top 3 in each of the most dangerous zones in the final third. As you can see here, being in close proximity with Liverpool and City, that's good news for Chelsea fans. But enough with the stats. I want to take a look at how Maresca's platforming his Chelsea team and why I think the tactical nous that he's showing now could prove to be very great in the long run for Chelsea fans who want to see their team reclaim the joy of winning the Premier League. And Maresca is so far showing that he has that edge. In a game against Bournemouth, Maresca did his usual inverting the fullback, but he chose to do Cucurella because Disasi was out right back. Now, usually this would work, but Bournemouth was destroying Chelsea's midfield. In fact, Chelsea was under the cosh for most of the first half. They were lucky to go into halftime 0-0. What Maresca did was genius. He subbed out Pedro Neto, subbed on Jadon Sancho, and pushed Cucurella to almost play as a left half-space 10, pushing Vega into midfield next to Caicedo. This change changed the complete trajectory of this game, and Chelsea went on to win the game. Maresca again showing that he's not afraid to make changes, even to players like Pedro Neto. As you can see here, this is how Chelsea ended the game, which is kind of crazy to have your left back in the half spaces, but it worked out. Maresca carried this thought process into a game against West Ham where Chelsea thrashed West Ham 3-0. Because of Maresca's understanding of Marc Cucurella's technical capabilities, he played him everywhere this game, popping up any which way that he wanted in the midfield. It caused so much problems that Fernández and Caicedo could just play through West Ham's midfield, leading to goals that essentially killed off the game. I wanted to map out what Chelsea looked like in possession, and this is what I came up with. Colwill, Caicedo, Fernández, and Cucurella almost formed a diamond. This is what I mean by the tactical nous that Maresca's showing, that he didn't show in Leicester. In a most recent game against Aston Villa, Maresca might have solved the Enzo Fernández, Moises Caicedo, Romeo Lavia conundrum. He inverted Caicedo from fullback, forming a box midfield including Cole Palmer. This type of formation suffocated Aston Villa into a 3-0 victory. But this formation depends on Wesley Fofana, so sadly, Chelsea might need to look into the market for another defender, but if they can get somebody of that ilk, they can dominate teams with this formation. In another display of his tactical flexibility, Maresca debuted a 3-1-6 formation against Leicester City, with Felix and Palmer playing in the half spaces and Fernández pushing up to create an overload on the right-hand side with Mudryk and Cucurella holding the width. It's almost insane to take this type of risk, but Maresca shows the type of cojones that it takes to be at a top club. You have to use the players you have available, and with Felix and Palmer and Fernández, that's the type of creativity that you want in playing in those pockets. As you can see here, I diagrammed the formation again. It's almost a diamond again, but instead of using Colwill, it's Caicedo at the base. But a game against Panathinaikos might have tipped what Maresca wants to do long term. In this game, Maresca set his team up in a 3-3-4 formation. Now, just hear me out. This is what it looks like in the diagram, because it might look crazy in this picture, but essentially he played Enzo Fernández at the DM, Cucurella as a CM, Dewsbury Hall as the right CM, and then Mudryk, Neto holding the width, and Nkunku and Felix in the half spaces. My personal thoughts are that Maresca wants to do this long term with Felix, Palmer, Nkunku, Sancho, and Neto, but without the right defensive cover, he's kind of scared to do that. But long term, Chelsea fans, this is what Maresca wants to do in my personal opinion. My evidence is in the most recent game against Spurs. Maresca started with his typical inverting the fullback, as in Caicedo from right back to get into the midfield with Lavia. But he quickly realized that Badiashile does not have the defensive quality that Fofana had. In doing so, Chelsea ended up being in a basketball game, and Maresca does not like end-to-end stuff. He loves possession. He loves dominating teams. In halftime, he made a change. With that change, this is what Chelsea looked like in the first half, with Caicedo inverting and lining up with Lavia on the midfield. Chelsea created chances, as I said, but there's a certain fragileness with this formation that, without Fofana cleaning up, looked pretty bad. But in the second half, he took a risk subbing out Lavia, who was the best performing midfielder in my opinion, and subbed in Gusto and moved him to right center back, and put Colwill at center back and moved Badiashile to left center back, thus debuting the 3-3-4 formation in the league. Caicedo and Enzo took turns playing DM, and it was so beautiful to see. Chelsea at one point in a 15-minute span, Sky Sports said, had 85% possession in the game. Spurs didn't know what to do with this formation. Wave after wave after wave destroyed the Spurs defense into going up 4-2. It was devastating. Maresca is separating himself from previous Chelsea coaches who played favoritism, who leaned on experience. Maresca doesn't care how long you played, how long you've been at the club. He wants you to perform now and run for the club. And with that type of attitude, Chelsea is going to go somewhere because he has no nonsense at all. And you can't argue against that type of attitude because clearly it's working. This is before the Spurs and Aston Villa game. Chelsea were third in their first 13 games. Compare that to Pochettino and Potter, who are languishing in mid-table. That's far and away better. And Chelsea fans should be excited because last couple of years they struggled away from home. This year though, this is before the Spurs game. They were second. Now they're first. And their goal difference is better than Liverpool, who are top of the league. And what I like most about Maresca is he doesn't let his players think they can get comfortable. In a quote after the Spurs win, Maresca states, "The plan or the idea is to not let the players slow down. They cannot drop because they know another player is waiting to come in." And this quote, I think specifically goes to Nani Madueke. In a recent quote a couple days ago, he details why Nani could be better, but he does it in a constructive way. Instead of tearing down a player, he builds them up. And what that does is it makes players fight for you. For example, Enzo Fernández was not in the starting lineup for a lot of the early part of the season. But guess what happens? He realized that he has to fight for his position, and now he's outperforming everything that he did last season. Even Nani Madueke, who only got 13 starts in 23 games last season, has already almost matched his starts this season because he's putting in the effort that Maresca wants to see. His GA is exactly the same in literally 9 less matches. Even Jadon Sancho, somebody who was labeled a flop in the Premier League, is outperforming everything he did in Man United. And this is all because of Maresca's platforming and in the way he handles players' attitudes. He doesn't let no one drop the level. Case in point, this is supposed to be the B team graphic, but you can see here, Enzo's in here, Neto, Cucurella. These are all players that are now in the A team. Maresca stated that there's no A and B team. We're a squad. That type of mentality is what you need to succeed. My only nitpick about Enzo Maresca so far at Chelsea is his over-reliance on Robert Sanchez. To me, he is not good enough, and if Chelsea want to go somewhere, they cannot depend on this bozo at the back. I'm sorry, I'm just being honest. Jorgensen, in my opinion, has shown the type of calmness in the back that would stop people thinking that Chelsea have a haphazardous defense. In my opinion, it's really because of a goalkeeper. And that's my only gripe so far with Maresca. So to settle this debate, I don't really think he's a Pep light. I think he's his own manager, but he just takes what he learned from Ancelotti, Pellegrini, and Guardiola, all great managers, and he's turned it into his own setup. So you let me think in the comments of what you think Maresca could be. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell for more content like this. Thank you.